The night sky fractured with a brilliant streak of blue-white light. Marcus Everett lowered his telescope, mouth agape as what appeared to be a meteorite carved a blazing path through the atmosphere. Unlike the hundreds of celestial bodies he'd observed over his years as an astronomer, this one's trajectory seemed controlled, its descent too gradual. When it disappeared beyond the pine-covered ridge half a mile from his mountain observatory, the impact was strangely muted. No thunderous explosion, just a dull thud and a brief flare of light. Marcus hesitated. At 42, he'd retreated to this remote Colorado outpost precisely to avoid human contact after his academic career imploded amid controversy over his theories about extraterrestrial intelligence. The cosmos had been his only companion for 3 years, and he preferred it that way. Curious trajectory, he muttered, grabbing his jacket and flashlight. Scientific curiosity overrode his reclusiveness as he ventured into the chill autumn night. The path through the woods was familiar even in darkness. 20 minutes of brisk hiking led him to a small clearing now transformed by a shallow crater. At its center lay not a smoking rock, but a sleek metallic pod about 10 feet long, its surface adorned with intricate geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with faint azure light. "Impossible," Marcus whispered, approaching cautiously. A seam appeared in the pod's side, widening until a portion of the hull folded outward. Marcus raised his arm to shield his eyes from the soft blue light emanating from within. When he lowered it, he froze. A woman or something remarkably like one stumbled from the opening. Her skin had a subtle iridescent quality, pale with an underlying blue-violet hue that caught the moonlight. Silver-white hair cascaded to her waist, framing features too perfect, too symmetrical to be human. Her eyes were the most striking, large, almond-shaped, and entirely violet with no visible pupils. She wore a form-fitting garment resembling a bodysuit, made of a material that shifted colors with her movements. She took one halting step toward Marcus before collapsing. Only then did he notice the dark liquid seeping from a wound on her side, blood, but with an opalescent quality. "Help," she said, the word accented but unmistakably English. "Please, sanctuary." Marcus stood paralyzed by conflicting impulses: scientific fascination, primal fear, and unexpected compassion. The alien woman's breathing grew labored. "My ship detected your transmissions, your observatory, knew you might understand." Her slender hand reached toward him, trembling. "I am Vila, last of the Australia Council, my world, gone." Marcus's scientific mind raced through possibilities. A hoax, a hallucination, a secret military experiment. But the pod's technology and her distinctly non-human physiology suggested the simplest explanation might be true. He was facing actual contact. "You need medical attention," he said, kneeling beside her. "I don't know if human medicine." "My physiology, adaptive," Vila whispered, "need shelter, safety, time to heal." Her eyes fluttered. "Will serve you, repay protection." "Serve me? No, that's not," Marcus began, but she had already lost consciousness. The rational course would be to contact authorities. But Marcus knew what would happen. She would become a specimen, dissected by government scientists. His own academic exile had taught him how establishment science treated the truly extraordinary. With a decision that would forever alter his solitary existence, Marcus gently lifted the alien woman into his arms. She was lighter than expected, her body temperature several degrees cooler than human norm. As he carried her back toward his cabin, the stars seemed suddenly different, no longer distant objects of study, but bridges between worlds. "I don't know what you're running from," he whispered to his unconscious visitor, "or what service means to your kind, but you're safe for now." The observatory dome gleamed under moonlight as Marcus carried Vila across its threshold, bringing the universe he'd studied for decades intimately into his home. 3 days passed before Vila fully regained consciousness. Marcus had cleaned and dressed her wound as best he could, relieved to find it healing at an astonishing rate. He'd converted his study into a makeshift bedroom, spending hours observing her while she slept, the subtle rise and fall of her chest, the occasional shimmer that seemed to pass beneath her skin like ripples on water. When her violet eyes finally opened, Marcus nearly dropped the bowl of soup he'd prepared. "You stayed," she said, her voice melodic with an otherworldly resonance. "Most would have surrendered me to your authorities." Marcus set the bowl down on the nightstand. "I've had experiences with authorities, scientists who claim to seek truth but fear it when it challenges their worldview." Vila's lips curved in a smile that transformed her already beautiful face into something breathtaking. "I sense your isolation, your pain." Her slender fingers reached toward his temple but stopped short of touching him. "The Astralia are empathic. We feel the emotional states of others." "You can read my mind," Marcus withdrew slightly. "Not thoughts, only emotional resonance." Vila struggled to sit up, the simple cotton shirt he'd lent her sliding off one iridescent shoulder. On my world, this gift made us diplomats, healers, artists. Now it makes me, her voice faltered, the last steward of a dead civilization. Over the next hours, as daylight faded and stars emerged, Vila revealed her story. The Australia, an ancient race from a planet orbiting a dying star, had faced extinction. Their evacuation ships had scattered across the galaxy seeking habitable worlds. Vila's ship, damaged in an asteroid field, had managed to reach Earth by locking onto the radio signals from Marcus's observatory. "Your language, how do you speak English?" Marcus asked, refilling her cup with water. Vila touched a small, jewel-like implant behind her ear. "Linguistic assimilation technology. I've been learning while unconscious from your television broadcasts." "And this service you mentioned?" Marcus asked hesitantly, uncomfortable with the concept. Vila's gaze became intense. "Australia cannot exist in isolation. We require purpose to be useful, to contribute. Without a social bond, without service to others, we wither." She reached for his hand, her touch sending an electric warmth up his arm. "I have nothing left, Marcus Everett. No home, no people, but I have knowledge, abilities that could benefit you." Marcus felt a strange constriction in his chest. "I can't own another sentient being." "Not ownership," she clarified. "Partnership with defined roles. I would assist your research, maintain your dwelling, share my knowledge of the cosmos beyond your instrument's reach." She hesitated, a flush of deeper violet coloring her cheeks. "My species forms deep bonds. Companionship is essential to us." The implication hung in the air between them, charged with possibility. "And what do you gain?" Marcus asked hoarsely. "Purpose, protection." Her fingers intertwined with his, her touch cool yet somehow warming his perpetually cold hands. "And perhaps in time, belonging." That night, as snowflakes began to dust the observatory dome, Marcus made up a proper bed for Vila in the guest room. As he turned to leave, she called his name. "On my world, it was considered a blessing to view the stars together before sleep," she said. "Would you share this custom with me?" Against his better judgment, Marcus sat beside her on the bed. Together they gazed through the skylight he'd installed years ago. The Milky Way stretched across the sky, a river of light-binding infinity. "That sensation in your chest," Vila whispered, "the tightness when our hands meet, I feel it too." Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd been touched before Vila arrived. Couldn't recall when he'd last wanted to be. "Rest," he said gently, rising. "Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next." As he closed her door, Marcus realized his sanctuary had been invaded in the most unexpected way. Not by the alien in his guest room, but by the sudden, bewildering hope blooming in his long-dormant heart. Weeks melted into the rhythm of shared existence. What began as awkward navigation of personal space evolved into synchronicity. Vila proved remarkably adaptable, quickly learning human customs while introducing subtle elements of her own culture. The observatory, once clinically organized, now contained strange crystalline sculptures that caught starlight and fractured it into mesmerizing patterns across the walls. Marcus found himself speaking more in those weeks than he had in 3 years of isolation. Vila absorbed his astronomical knowledge voraciously while offering insights that challenged fundamental principles of astrophysics. "Your equations assume linear time progression," she explained one evening, her slender fingers tracing corrections on his whiteboard. "Celestial bodies exist in temporal flux, subtle but measurable with the right instruments." Her presence transformed his research. With Vila's guidance, Marcus began recording observations that would revolutionize human understanding of neutron stars. Yet it was not her intelligence alone that drew him to her. It was the way she hummed alien melodies while preparing meals. The way she would pause, eyes closed, to feel the mountain wind against her skin. The way she looked at him when she thought he wouldn't notice. One evening, as mountain twilight painted the sky in watercolor hues, Marcus found Vila on the observation deck. She wore a dress she'd fashioned from old curtains, her silver-white hair loose around her shoulders. In the fading light, her skin's subtle iridescence created a halo effect. "You're starring again," she said without turning. "You're beautiful," Marcus replied simply, surprising himself with his directness. She turned, violet eyes luminous. "On my world, beauty was considered merely a physical resonance, meaningless without the harmony of souls beneath." She stepped closer. "Your soul has a remarkable resonance, Marcus." His heart raced as she placed her palm against his chest. Through his shirt, her touch felt like starlight made tangible. "I've mapped every feature of your face," she whispered. "The gray at your temples, the lines beside your eyes, the scar on your jaw, they form a constellation uniquely yours." His hands found her waist hesitantly. "Vila, I've lived alone so long." The moment fractured at the sound of tires on gravel. Headlights swept the driveway below. Government vehicle, Marcus said tersely, recognizing the distinctive black SUV. Hide in the underground storage room. There's a concealed entrance behind the bookcase in my office. Vila disappeared as Marcus composed himself. Minutes later, he greeted a stern-faced woman at his door. Dr. Everett, Agent Daniels, Department of Homeland Security, she flashed credentials. We've detected unusual energy signatures from this location. Satellite imagery shows a disturbance in the forest 3 weeks ago. Meteorological equipment, Marcus lied smoothly. I've been tracking ionospheric anomalies, purely academic research. The agent's skeptical gaze swept the living area, lingering on a half-empty teacup with a trace of iridescent lipstick on its rim. You have company, Dr. Everett. Our records indicate you live alone. Colleague from Denver, consulting on my research. Agent Daniels circled the room, stopping at Vila's crystalline sculptures. Unusual art. Imported Finland, Marcus fought to keep his voice steady. After what felt like hours, the agent departed with a promise to return if satellite monitoring detected further anomalies. Marcus waited until the SUV's taillights disappeared down the mountain road before rushing to release Vila. She emerged pale, trembling slightly. They will return, my presence endangers you. Let them come, Marcus said with sudden fierceness, pulling her into his arms. I've spent my life studying the stars. Now the stars have sent you to me, I won't give that up. The tension of fear transformed into something else as their bodies pressed together. Vila's fingers traced his jawline, her touch leaving trails of tingling warmth. Among my people, she whispered, danger shared forms bonds stronger than any ritual or promise. When their lips met, Marcus felt a jolt like touching a live wire, but pleasant, intoxicating. Vila's skin emitted a soft glow, responding to her emotional state. Stay with me tonight, Marcus said against her lips. Not as my guest, not in service, as my equal. Vila's answer was to take his hand and lead him toward his bedroom. The stars outside, bearing silent witness to boundaries dissolved between two worlds. The mountain winter settled in, wrapping the observatory in pristine white silence. Inside, warmth flourished. Marcus and Vila moved through the spaces they shared with the comfortable intimacy of lovers, their research interrupted by stolen kisses and lingering touches. Nights were a revelation. In darkness, Vila's skin would glow with patterns that mapped her emotions, constellations of pleasure that Marcus learned to read with devoted attention. Their joining transcended physical union. Her empathic abilities created feedback loops of sensation, each feeling magnified and shared between them in waves that left them breathless. Your kind has no idea what they're missing, Marcus murmured one night, tracing the luminescent patterns across her bare shoulder. Vila's laugh was musical. We are compatible beyond probability. Among my people, such resonance would be celebrated as cosmic alignment. In daylight, they worked as intellectual equals. Marcus had begun writing a revolutionary paper on gravitational anomalies, carefully disguised as theoretical mathematics to avoid revealing his alien source. Vila, meanwhile, had modified equipment from her crashed pod to enhance the observatory's telescopes beyond Earth technology. It was this modified equipment that detected the signal, a repeating pattern unmistakably artificial, originating from near Jupiter's orbit. It's astrally, Vila whispered, her voice trembling as she decoded the transmission. A rescue ship, they received my automated distress beacon, her violet eyes filled with opalescent tears. There are 17 survivors aboard, my people, Marcus, I thought I was the last. Marcus felt his world shift on its axis. He'd known this day might come, had prepared himself intellectually, but the emotional reality struck like a physical blow. When, he asked, struggling to keep his voice steady. 3 weeks, they're cautious, approaching slowly to avoid detection by Earth's monitoring systems. Vila's hands shook as she clutched the data readout. They're asking if I require extraction. That night they lay awake in bed, the space between them charged with unspoken fears. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. You should go with them, he said, the words like glass in his throat. Your people need you. Vila turned to him, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her skin. And what of your need, what of mine for you? I can't ask you to abandon the last of your kind. You aren't asking, I'm choosing. She straddled him suddenly, her naked body pressing against his, hands pinning his wrists to the mattress. Do you think these months have been mere gratitude, service rendered for sanctuary? Her lips found his neck, her silvery hair curtaining around them like starlight. Marcus groaned as her teeth grazed his skin. Feel what I feel, she whispered, and suddenly his mind was flooded with her emotions, depth of attachment, fear of separation, fierce desire. The intensity staggered him. That night their lovemaking held a desperate edge. Every touch declared what words struggled to express. Vila's skin blazed with light so bright it cast shadows across the room. When release came, it was shattering, mutual, and followed by tears neither tried to hide. Dawn found them entwined, both knowing decisions couldn't be postponed. There's a third option, Marcus said finally, stroking her hair. Use the observatory to contact the ship. Tell them Earth has hospitable regions. Isolated, protected places where a small colony could establish itself undetected. Hope illuminated Vila's face. A new beginning here. Humanity isn't ready for official contact, Marcus acknowledged. But unofficial coexistence, a hidden community building toward eventual integration, it could work. Vila traced the lines of his face with trembling fingers. You would help establish a colony of aliens on your world. I would help establish a home for the woman I love and her people. The word love hung between them, spoken aloud for the first time. Vila's response was to take his hand and place it over her heart, where a subtle rhythm pulsed beneath her iridescent skin. The Astrala have a term, she whispered. Eshtarla, it translates poorly but means roughly one whose absence would make existence hollow. Her violet eyes held his. You are my Eshtarla, Marcus Everett. As snow fell outside their window, they began drafting a message to the approaching ship. The first diplomatic communication between their worlds, written not by governments, but by two beings who had found in each other's arms a universe worth preserving. Spring thawed the mountain passes, revealing terrain transformed by more than seasonal change. A mile from the observatory, concealed by dense forest and advanced camouflage technology, the Astrala vessel rested. Its 17 occupants, scientists, artists, and historians, had arrived 2 months earlier, guided by Marcus and Vila's carefully orchestrated landing plan. The reunion had been emotional. Vila, believed lost, was embraced as a miracle by her remaining kin. When she introduced Marcus, explaining their bond, there was initial hesitation. Interspecies relationships had no precedent in Astrala culture, yet their evident connection, visible in the synchronicity of their movements, the way their emotions resonated even to other empaths, eventually won acceptance. You've created something unprecedented, Elder Thalix told them during the colony's council meeting. The silver-skinned elder was the oldest surviving Astralia, his eyes deep indigo with age. A bridge between worlds not through formal diplomacy but through unity of hearts. The observatory had become their command center, expanded with Astralia technology to accommodate increased activity without attracting attention. Government satellites occasionally passed overhead, but Marcus's reputation as an eccentric astronomer provided cover for the additional structures disguised as research equipment. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in purples reminiscent of Vila's eyes, Marcus found her at their favorite spot on the observation deck. She wore a gown that blended human and Astralic design, flowing fabric embedded with bioluminescent fibers that responded to her emotions. The atmospheric adaptation is proceeding well, she said as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. Our biology adjusts more quickly than expected. Marcus nuzzled her neck, inhaling her scent, something like vanilla with hints of ozone. And the cultural adaptation. Vila laughed, the sound still his favorite melody after all these months. Thalix is addicted to your earth coffee. Marin and Cassix cannot stop watching human cooking programs. She turned in his arms. We are finding our way. Their kiss was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Elder Thalix approached, accompanied by 2 younger Astralia carrying a ceremonial box of polished crystal. We have deliberated, Thalix announced, and reached consensus. Our survival here depends on discretion but also on understanding. Marcus Everett has proven himself not merely Vila's chosen companion but a guardian of our people's future. The box was opened, revealing a small device resembling an intricate silver pendant. This is our highest honor, Thalix explained. A consciousness crystal containing the complete cultural and scientific knowledge of Astralis, our history, art, science, all that remains of our world. With ceremonial gravity, the pendant was placed around Marcus's neck. The moment it touched his skin, Marcus gasped as images flooded his mind. Crystal cities orbiting a dying sun, musical mathematics that shaped reality, the cosmic journey that brought these survivors across the void. You honor me beyond words, Marcus said when he could speak again. There is more, Vila said softly, taking his hands. I have requested and received permission for a bonding ceremony, if you consent. Marcus's heart thundered, marriage. More profound, an empathic linking that would allow you to share my abilities, extend your lifespan to match mine. Her violet eyes searched his. We would truly become one, Marcus, neither fully human nor fully Astralia, but something new. That night under stars that had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations, they were bonded. 17 astrolae formed a circle around them, their combined empathic energy creating a field of resonance. As Marcus and Vila exchanged vows, his in English, hers in the musical language of her people, the pendant at his throat pulsed with light. When Vila pressed her palm to his chest for the final ritual, Marcus felt a surge of energy course through him. His perception expanded, suddenly aware of every emotional current around him. The approval of the elders, the curiosity of the younger Astralia, and blazing brightest, Vila's love, a supernova of feeling that threatened to consume him. Gradually, his senses stabilized to accommodate this new awareness. When he opened his eyes, the world looked subtly different, colors more vibrant, patterns more evident, and Vila's presence a constant warm glow in his consciousness. "What happens now?" he whispered against her lips. "Now we build," she answered. "A sanctuary for my people, a bridge between worlds, a future neither of us could have imagined alone." Later, as they lay entwined in their bedroom, Marcus traced the luminescent patterns on Vila's skin, patterns now mirrored faintly on his own. "For an astronomer who once couldn't connect with his own species," he mused, "I've come a long way." Vila smiled, her fingers playing across the pendant that now linked him to her civilization's legacy. "You were always watching the stars, you just needed one to fall to Earth." Outside, the Astralia vessel hummed with activity as its occupants prepared for permanent settlement. Inside, two beings from different worlds dreamed together of possibilities as endless as the cosmos that had united them, a new constellation taking shape in the dark.